Welcome to Griffonomics.
It's great to be here.
Today, we are going to look at a company that, if I'm being honest, holds a very specific, and I'd say somewhat traumatizing, place in the hearts of corporate employees everywhere.
I have a feeling I know exactly where you're going with this.
It's Monday morning. You locked yourself out of your email, or maybe, your laptop screen is doing that flickering thing again. You can't work. You're frustrated. So you go to a portal that looks like it was designed in 2008. You fill out a form. You get a ticket number.
And then silence.
Yes. The black hole of the IT help desk.
The place where productivity goes to die.
We are talking about ServiceNow. And usually when investors talk about ServiceNow, they talk about it's this steady, boring, back-end utility, the plumbing of the enterprise.
Right.
But looking at the stack of research we have today, from analysts at Truist, Wedbush, the Brian Feroldi analysis, that boring narrative is actually completely fundamentally wrong.
It is dangerously outdated. I mean it. If you still think of ServiceNow as just the IT ticket company, you are missing one of the most aggressive, most important pivots in the entire software industry right now.
That's a huge claim.
It is, because we aren't just looking at a software update today. We are looking at a company attempting to re-architect its entire identity into the operating system for enterprise AI agents.
Yeah, okay, the operating system for AI. I feel like I hear that phrase from every single software CEO right now. It's become a buzzword.
It has, but ServiceNow has a very specific argument for why they are the ones to claim it, and it's backed by a very, very specific partnership with Nvidia. But before we, drink the Kool-Aid on that, we have to look at the other side of the coin, because there is a genuine existential crisis happening here.
Right.
We have to talk about the software apocalypse.
The software apocalypse. It sounds incredibly dramatic, but reading through the bearish analysis here, the logic is actually pretty cold and hard.
It is. It's just math. And to really understand it, we have to deconstruct the business model that has powered Silicon Valley for, the last 20 years?
The SaaS model, software as a service.
Exactly. The gym membership model, as you've called it.
You pay every month whether you go or not.
And for 2 decades, the formula for companies like Salesforce, Workday, and ServiceNow has been incredibly simple. You charge per seat.
Right. I hire a new sales rep. I buy a Salesforce license for them. I hire a new HR manager. They get a Workday license. I hire a new IT guy. They need a ServiceNow license. It's simple. Headcount growth equals revenue growth.
It's a linear relationship. And Wall Street absolutely loves it because it's predictable. If the economy is growing, employment grows, and therefore software revenue grows. It's a beautiful, simple story.
But now, enter generative AI.
And the entire model gets turned on its head. The core promise of generative AI is efficiency. Not just a little bit of efficiency, but extreme step change efficiency.
Right. The pitch is that one employee, armed with a Copilot or a Gemini or ChatGPT, can now do the work of 2 people, or 3, or maybe even 5.
Correct. Which, if you're the company buying the software, sounds fantastic. You get to lower your single biggest cost, labor.
But for the software vendor, this is a nightmare scenario.
It's terrifying for them, because if I'm a CEO and my AI tools make my team 50% more efficient, I might decide I don't need to hire the next 50 people I had planned for. In fact, I might look at my current staff and realize I can lay off 20% of them.
And when those people leave the building, you cancel their software subscriptions. Their seats disappear.
That is the seat compression thesis in a nutshell. It's the ghost that is haunting the entire SaaS sector right now. If the future of work involves fewer humans and your entire business model is based on counting humans, you are mathematically destined to shrink.
This is exactly what the analysts at Truist were flagging. They put out a note saying that companies with these strict per-seat pricing models have been the worst performers in the market recently. Investors are genuinely running scared from this.
And it actually goes a layer deeper than just layoffs. There's another, more subtle technological threat emerging called vibe coding.
I saw this term in the notes. It sounds like something teenagers do on TikTok.
Yeah.
But the implications for a $100 billion company like ServiceNow are actually kind of terrifying.
Vibe coding is a bit of internet slang, but it captures a very real shift. It basically refers to the ability of generative AI to write functional code so well and so cheaply that a non-engineer can just describe what they want, the vibe of the application, and the AI just builds it.
So the classic build versus buy equation completely changes.
It gets obliterated. Historically, you bought a ServiceNow license because building your own IT ticketing system from scratch was a nightmare. It would take a team of engineers 2 years and cost millions of dollars. But what if I can just go to a large language model and say, hey, build me a simple workflow that tracks laptop requests, automatically pings the inventory manager when stock is low, and sends a notification when the laptop is ready for pickup. And it just spits out a working app in 30 seconds.
Why am I paying ServiceNow millions of dollars a year for that?
Why indeed? It's like you're paying for a rigid, expensive, off-the-rack suit when there's a robot tailor next door who can make you a custom one for basically free.
And that's the fear, that AI doesn't just make workers more efficient, it completely commoditizes the application layer of software. If software becomes essentially free to build, then selling software becomes a very, very bad business.
And this isn't just theory, it's reflected in the stock performance, right? We have the Brian Feroldi analysis here.
Yeah, he points out that ServiceNow consistently beats earnings expectations. They raise their future guidance, but the stock has been hit with this valuation compression.
It's trading at around 34 times forward earnings. Now, for a normal company in the S&P 500, that sounds ridiculously expensive. But for ServiceNow, historically, that's a discount. It's what the market calls a show-me valuation. Wall Street is screaming at them, we don't believe your old model works anymore. Prove to us you can survive this apocalypse before we give you a premium multiple again.
So that is the setup. That's the bear case. It's powerful. Seek compression and cheap AI-built software could hollow out their entire revenue base.
It could.
Now, let's flip the script, because ServiceNow isn't just sitting there waiting for the meteor to hit. They are executing what you called a defensive offense.
That is the perfect way to frame it. They see the threat, and instead of just building a bunker, they are fundamentally changing their game plan. They are pivoting their entire business model from seats to consumption.
Explain that pivot. How do you decouple your revenue from the number of humans a company employs?
You do it by introducing a hybrid pricing model, so you'll see this in their financial documents under names like Pro Plus, SKUs, or more commonly, assist packs.
Assist packs.
Think of them as tokens, or maybe a better analogy is buying a data plan for your phone. ServiceNow is essentially going to their customers and saying, okay, we get it. You might have fewer human agents in your call center next year, but the work still needs to get done. The password still needs to be reset. The customer's complaint still needs to be resolved. The invoice still needs to be processed.
And if an AI agent does that work instead of a person, ServiceNow still wants to get paid.
Exactly. They are shifting from monetizing the user to monetizing the outcome. If an AI agent resolves a customer support ticket without a human ever touching it, that action burns a token from the customer's assist pack.
That is clever. It's a hedge against their own biggest threat. If I, as a CEO, fire the human and replace them with a bot, ServiceNow actually might make more money if that bot is doing a high volume of work.
That is the entire bet. And the early data, it suggests it's actually working. CEO Bill McDermott used a very specific phrase in the last earnings call: the hockey stick.
In business, a hockey stick chart is the dream, right?
Yeah.
It's flat for a little while, then it goes almost vertical. He was referring to the token reload rates. What's happening is customers are buying these starter packs of AI tokens, maybe thinking they'll last a full year.
Right.
But they're burning through them in a matter of months and having to come back to ServiceNow to buy bigger and bigger packs. The usage is exceeding their own expectations.
There was that example in the notes of the fast food chain.
Yes, a leading American fast food chain, one you've definitely eaten at.
Yeah.
They renewed their contract, and when they did, they expanded their assist entitlement, that's their bucket of AI tokens, by 13 times.
13x.
13x.
Yeah.
A 1,300% increase in their planned AI usage upon renewal.
Why? What were they doing that burned through so many tokens?
It's because they realized the AI was actually working. It was resolving customer complaints and order issues faster and more accurately than many of their human agents were. So they didn't just dip their toe in, they leaned in hard.
And this is what drove the Now Assist product, which is their brand name for all these AI features, to over $600 million in annual contract value, or ACV. That's faster than any other product in the company's entire history.
$600 million in net new business for a product that basically didn't exist 2 years ago.
It's a massive validation of the consumption model. It's proof that companies are willing to pay what is effectively a tax on AI-driven work. ServiceNow is trying to get to a place where they don't care if a human or a robot does the job because they own the toll booth on the workflow highway.
Okay, so the business model is shifting to capture the value of AI work. But for that to work in the long run, the AI actually has to be really, really good. It can't just be a basic chatbot wrapped in a nice interface.
Absolutely not.
And this brings us to the part of the deep dive that really caught my attention, the Nvidia partnership.
This is the strategic inflection point. This is the whole story, in my opinion.
Usually when I see partnership in a corporate press release, I just roll my eyes. It usually means they integrated a login button or they agreed to, do a webinar together. It's marketing.
And 99% of the time, you are right to be skeptical. It's just marketing fluff. But the collaboration between ServiceNow and Nvidia, and specifically between the two CEOs, Bill McDermott and Jensen Huang, is fundamentally different. It is structural. It is deep.
Jensen Huang, the man in the leather jacket, the guy who basically runs the company that is powering this entire AI revolution.
He has effectively become the visionary validator for ServiceNow's entire strategy. He's not on their board of directors, but his influence is all over their product roadmap. He made a statement that I think is absolutely crucial to understanding the bull case here.
What did she say?
He said, and I'm quoting, that ServiceNow is the destined operating system of enterprise AI agents.
Destined. That is almost religious language. It's very dramatic. But why? Why does NVIDIA need ServiceNow? NVIDIA has the chips. They have the models. They have the brains. Why do they need the IT help desk company?
Because raw intelligence is useless without context. Think about it this way. You can go out and buy the smartest AI model in the world, a true genius-level digital brain. But if you drop that brain into a company and it doesn't know who the employees are, it doesn't know the company policies, it doesn't have access to the databases, and it doesn't know the history of all past problems and their solutions, what can it actually do?
It can write a nice poem. It can summarize a generic article from the web. But it can't fix my specific problem inside my company.
It generates a generic answer. It can't take specific action. ServiceNow possesses the context. They have what's called the CMDB, the Configuration Management Database. It's the boring plumbing we talked about earlier.
Right.
But that plumbing is their secret weapon. They know about every laptop, every server, every software license, every employee, every permission level inside a company. NVIDIA provides the engine. ServiceNow provides the map, the fuel, and the steering wheel.
There's this story that Bill McDermott tells about a conversation he had with Jensen, the sick day vision.
It's a radical, almost sci-fi idea, but it's their North Star, Jensen told him. Bill, you need to build a company where if every single human employee called in sick on the same day, the company would still run perfectly.
The ultimate autonomous enterprise, no humans required.
And to even attempt to get there, they're integrating their engineering teams at a level I've rarely seen. This isn't just an API connection. They have hundreds of engineers from both companies working shoulder to shoulder in the same rooms to build a proprietary stack from the ground up.
And that proprietary stack is their answer to the vibe coding threat we talked about. It's how they build a moat.
Exactly. And that stack is where we really need to get technical for a minute, because this is where they're trying to build something that you can't just replicate by asking a generic AI to build me an app.
All right, let's double click on that technology.
Yeah.
Because the common critique of these enterprise AI platforms is always, it's just a wrapper around GPT-4. You're saying this is something different.
It is definitely not just a wrapper. They have co-developed a very specific kind of reasoning model called April Neutron.
April Neutron. It sounds like a Transformer character from the 80s.
Or a cocktail. As Jensen joked at their conference keynote, he said it sounds like an April Spritz. But the name matters less than the architecture.
Okay.
Most chatbots that you and I use today, they're prediction engines. You ask a question, and they are statistically predicting the next most likely word to form a coherent sentence. They are incredibly smooth talkers, but they aren't really thinkers.
That's why they hallucinate, right? They're just trying to complete the sentence in a plausible way, even if it's factually wrong.
Precisely. April Neutron is architected differently. It's a reasoning agent. So when you give it a complex multi-step task, let's say onboard our new employee, Alice, it doesn't just start predicting text. It engages in a chain of thought process.
Walk me through what that looks like.
It pauses. It actually plans. Internally, it says, okay, to onboard Alice, I first need to check the company directory to see which department she's in. Then, step 2, I need to check the rules for that department to see what software licenses she's entitled to. Step 3, I need to provision her an email address through the Microsoft 365 API. Step 4, I need to send a request to the hardware team to order her a new laptop.
So it's breaking the goal down into a sequence of actions.
A sequence of logical, executable actions. And then it executes them in order, checking against internal rules at each step. It is acting, not just chatting. It is an agentic workflow.
And this is built on top of NVIDIA's hardware.
Yes, it's built on NVIDIA's NeMo framework, and it runs on their DGX cloud. This is specialized infrastructure that is designed specifically for this kind of multi-step corporate logic, which is a very different computational problem from, say, writing a sonnet about a cat.
And for it to do any of that, it needs to be able to read and understand all of the company's internal documents.
Yeah.
Which brings us to a surprisingly boring but absolutely critical topic: PDFs.
The humble, the terrible, the ubiquitous PDF.
I hate them. You hate them. And apparently AI really, really hates them too.
AI historically fails at PDFs. And you have to think about why. A standard large language model reads text as a linear stream, left to right, line by line, like a novel.
But a PDF invoice isn't a novel. It has a company logo in the top left corner, a table of line items in the middle, terms and conditions in a tiny footer, maybe a handwritten signature on the side.
Exactly. It's spatial. It's a two-dimensional layout. If you just feed that linearly into something like GPT-4, it gets hopelessly confused. It mixes up the header with a table row. It completely loses the context of the data. This is what we call dark data.
Dark data.
It's the vast ocean of data that exists inside every enterprise but is basically invisible to AI because it's trapped in these complex, nonlinear formats.
So what did Nvidia and ServiceNow do about it?
They built a proprietary multimodal perception engine. It's a co-developed AI PDF reader. But it doesn't just read the text. It sees the document almost like a human would. It looks at the layout. It visually identifies the table structure. It understands that this number belongs to that column, and then it extracts the data with its context intact.
That sounds like a small technical detail, but if you want to automate a finance department or a legal department, that is the whole ballgame.
You cannot have an autonomous enterprise if your AI can't read an invoice, or a sales contract, or a compliance document. Unlocking that dark data is a massive competitive advantage because all of that newly accessible data then feeds the data flywheel.
The flywheel concept, the more you use it, the better it gets.
Every single time the AI successfully reads a document or resolves a ticket, it learns your specific company's pattern. It's a closed loop of improvement. The ServiceNow instance at Coca-Cola gets smarter and smarter about how Coca-Cola operates. The instance at Nike gets smarter and smarter about Nike's specific workflows.
Which builds an incredibly powerful moat. If I, as a customer, decide to switch to a competitor, I lose all of that accumulated company-specific institutional memory.
You lose the brain, precisely. And that leads directly to the broader, grander strategy. If ServiceNow has the context from the CMDB and they have the reasoning engine from the Nvidia partnership, what is their end game?
To be the control tower?
To be the control tower. This is their answer to the absolute chaos of the current enterprise AI market.
Right now, the enterprise AI market is the Wild West. It's completely decentralized. You have the marketing team using Jasper to write ad copy. The engineering team is using GitHub Copilot to write code. HR is experimenting with a custom bot they built on Azure.
And the CIO is having a full-blown panic attack because he has no idea where all the company's sensitive data is going.
That's AI sprawl. It's a compliance and security nightmare. What happens when a rogue agent in the HR department starts hallucinating and promising job candidates a salary you can't possibly afford? Or worse, what if it sends sensitive employee health data to a public server?
You get sued, you fail your audits, you get fired. ServiceNow is pitching itself as the solution to this very specific, very expensive fear. They are going to enterprises and saying, look, we don't care which agents you use. You can use Microsoft, you can use Anthropic, you can use OpenAI, you can build your own. We don't care. But you need a single control tower to manage all of them.
It's like air traffic control at an airport. The tower doesn't care if it's a Delta plane or a United plane or a private jet. Its job is to tell them all where to go, what altitude to fly at, and make absolutely sure they don't crash into each other.
And to make sure they're authorized to be in that airspace in the first place. They want to be the single pane of glass for AI governance.
So they aren't actually trying to kill the competition from OpenAI or Anthropic. They're trying to integrate them.
They are positioning themselves above the competition. They recently announced deep integrations with both Anthropic's Claude models and Microsoft's Copilot, directly inside the ServiceNow interface. Their goal is for the user to never have to leave the ServiceNow platform.
How's that work?
If a user asks a question that ServiceNow determines would be best answered by Claude's creative writing ability, it will seamlessly route that query to Claude's API in the background, get the answer, check it against internal compliance and security rules, and then present that answer back to the user inside the ServiceNow window.
So the user might not even know they just used an Anthropic model.
That's the power play. Whoever owns the interface, whoever owns the point of engagement owns the customer. And to enforce this control tower strategy, they are spending billions of dollars on security acquisitions.
They bought a company called Armis for nearly $8 billion.
$7.75 billion. It was a massive acquisition. And Armis specializes in asset intelligence and security, specifically for connected devices, the Internet of Things.
That seems like a weird fit. That's hardware stuff, right?
Huh.
Why does a software workflow company care about that?
Because in a modern factory or a hospital or a retail store, everything is a connected asset. The MRI machines, the assembly line robots, the HVAC systems, the security cameras, these are all potential endpoints that an AI agent might need to interact with. ServiceNow wants to govern everything. If an AI agent autonomously orders a replacement part for a machine on the factory floor, ServiceNow wants its control tower to know, is that machine secure? Is it currently online? Who is authorized to make changes to it?
It extends the definition of an asset from a laptop to literally everything.
Everything with an IP address. They also bought a smaller company called Veza, which is all about identity security. You hear the phrase, identity is the new perimeter. They are building a comprehensive security fabric. The whole pitch to the CEO and the board of directors is risk-defined, portfolio protected. They are selling sleep. They are selling the assurance that you can embrace the power of AI without accidentally blowing up your company.
Okay, let's talk about the money. Because all of these grand strategies, the control tower, the token pricing, the Nvidia tech, it all has to eventually translate to the balance sheet. And looking at the financials, this company is putting up some very, very impressive numbers.
Impressive is an understatement. In the software world, there's a well-known benchmark for elite companies called the Rule of 40.
Can you explain that for listeners who don't spend their days scrolling through Seeking Alpha?
Sure. It's a really simple formula to check the health and balance of a software business. You take its annual revenue growth percentage, and you add its profit margin, usually free cash flow margin. If that combined number is over 40, you are considered an elite, healthy, well-run software company.
So you could be growing at 40% but losing money with a 0% margin. That hits 40. Or you could be growing at only 10% but have a 30% profit margin. That also hits 40.
Exactly. Most companies struggle to consistently hit 40. ServiceNow. Well, they're operating at what I'd call the rule of 55 plus, and then some. They are growing their revenue at roughly 21 to 22% per year.
Which is already incredible for a company that's on track to do $10 billion in revenue. Usually the law of large numbers kicks in and your growth slows way down.
It's top-tier growth at scale. But here's the kicker. On top of that 21% growth, they are an absolute cash machine. They have a free cash flow margin of over 35%.
So 21 plus 35 is 56.
56. They are blowing the rule of 40 completely out of the water. They're one of the most efficient capital compounders in the entire market. And you're starting to see the market realize that this isn't just a one-trick pony in IT anymore.
They've broken the business down into these different workflow segments.
Right. Technology workflows, which is the core IT stuff, is still the biggest piece of the pie. But the employee workflows, which is HR, and customer workflows, which is customer service management, are growing incredibly fast.
The customer service part makes sense. Every company in the world wants to automate its call center.
It's their best performing segment for that exact reason. And then there's this new interesting segment, creator workflows.
This is their answer to that vibe coding threat we talked about at the beginning.
It's their strategic countermove.
Yeah.
Creator workflows is their low-code app engine. They are basically saying to their customers, you want to build your own custom little apps and workflows. Fine, we get it. But don't let your employees build them out in the wild where you can't see them. Build them on our app engine.
Build them inside our walled garden so we can govern them with our control tower.
Correct. It's a way to absorb and control the shadow IT trend instead of fighting it.
There's also a big shift in who they sell to. For years, ServiceNow was known as a whale hunter. You only bought their platform if you were a Fortune 500 company.
If you had fewer than 5,000 employees, they probably wouldn't even return your call. It was just too expensive and too complex to implement for smaller businesses. But AI is changing the deployment economics of their own software.
How so?
Historically, a big ServiceNow implementation took an army of consultants from Deloitte or Accenture 6 months to a year. You had to manually map out every single business process. It was a massive undertaking.
Right.
Now, they are using generative AI to automate much of the implementation process itself. The AI can scan a company's current messy systems and automatically suggest a best practice configuration in ServiceNow.
So it dramatically lowers the activation energy for a new customer.
Exactly. And that allows them to move down market. They've just launched a new product called the Core Business Suite, which is specifically targeted at the mid-market companies with between 1,000 and 5,000 employees.
That is a lot of potential new customers.
It opens up a massive new total addressable market, or TAM, for them, but it also brings them into a much more intense dogfight. In the mid-market, you aren't competing with archaic 20-year-old legacy systems. You're competing head-to-head with nimble modern players like Jira, which is owned by Atlassian, or Freshworks.
So the competitive pressure really heats up there.
It absolutely does. But ServiceNow's argument to those mid-market CEOs is a compelling one. It's, look, you are going to grow. Do you want to buy a smaller point solution now and have to go through the pain of ripping it out and replacing it in 3 years? Or do you want to buy the platform you will never outgrow from day one?
Which brings us to the moat. We touched on the renewal rate earlier.
A 98% gross renewal rate.
That is effectively 100% when you account for the tiny fraction of companies that go bankrupt or get acquired each year. Basically, nobody leaves.
Once ServiceNow is installed, it becomes the central nervous system of the enterprise. It gets its tentacles into HR, it connects to security, it integrates with IT, it touches finance. Ripping it out is like trying to perform a heart transplant while the patient is running a marathon. It is operationally terrifying.
CIOs don't get fired for renewing their ServiceNow contract.
They get fired for trying to replace it and failing spectacularly.
Okay, so let's put it all together. We have a product with an insane moat in switching costs. We have a brilliant business model pivot to AI consumption pricing. We have a best-in-class, deeply integrated partnership with the most important company in AI, Nvidia. And we have Rule of 55 financials. Well, it sounds almost perfect. So I have to play the skeptic one more time. What breaks this story? What is the real risk here?
The primary risk, I think, is execution speed. The Assist Pack pivot from seats to consumption is brilliant on paper, but there's a potential timing mismatch. What if companies start firing the humans faster than they ramp up their usage of the AI tokens?
You get a revenue air pocket, a dip.
Exactly. If I'm a CEO and I lay off 1,000 employees today, I stop paying for their software seats tomorrow. That revenue is gone instantly. But if it takes my company 6 months to fully implement and get value from the AI automation tools, ServiceNow has a 6-month revenue hole to fill. They need that hockey stick adoption curve to happen immediately to offset the seat loss.
And then there's the valuation. It's still not cheap.
It's definitely not a value stock. It's what you'd call a growth at a reasonable price or due to your stock. But reasonable is subjective. Trading at 34 times forward earnings is still high if interest rates stay elevated for a long time. If the market suddenly decides that the AI boom was a bubble and rotates back into boring industrial stocks, ServiceNow will get hit along with all the other tech names.
But compared to some of the pure play AI hype stocks out there that have no revenue.
Oh, it's much, much safer. It has real cash flow. It has $10 billion in revenue. This isn't a startup with a fancy PowerPoint deck and a dream.
So, bringing it all to a final verdict, the analysis we've read, where does it land? Is this a buy?
The consensus analysis from the sources we looked at paints it as a high-conviction long-term holding. The core thesis is that ServiceNow is not the company being disrupted by AI. It is the platform for the disruptors.
They're absorbing the disruption, not fighting it.
They are. They are effectively saying, we don't care who wins the AI race. We will tax the disruption.
I want to end with a thought experiment for the listener. We've been using the gold rush metaphor a lot in this whole AI cycle. You know, Nvidia selling the picks and shovels. Companies like OpenAI are digging for gold.
Right. It's a common analogy.
But think about ServiceNow's control tower strategy. If they truly succeed, if they become the single indispensable layer that governs every AI agent, authorizes every automated action, and secures every data packet, do they eventually become more powerful than the companies building the AI models themselves?
It's a fantastic question. If you are OpenAI, you have the magic algorithm. You have the gold. But if ServiceNow controls the access to the enterprise customer, the road to the market, you have to go through them. You have to pay their tax.
It's the difference between owning the gold mine and owning the only way station on the only road out of town. The miner takes all the risk of finding the gold. The way station just sits there and takes a small cut of every single piece of gold that passes through.
And historically, over the long run, the way station is a much, much better business. It's a toll booth on the future GDP of the AI economy.
Risk defined, portfolio protected.
That is the ultimate promise.
It has been a fascinating look under the hood of a company that is really trying to change its entire DNA in real time in front of everyone.
It's going to be one of the most important business case studies to watch over the next 5 years, without a doubt.
We will definitely be watching. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you to our listeners. As a reminder, none of this constitutes financial advice. Please do your own due diligence. We'll see you on the next deep dive.